Tonight, we are drifting into the subtle science of empathy. It is the hidden sense that lets one person feel the experience of another. Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepy Science Hub channel. It moves through rooms faster than words, and it can steady the nerves of a frightened child. It has the power to soften arguments before they escalate, and it can even influence what we notice in a face or what our bodies do when someone nearby is hurt. Empathy can be felt in the chest as emotion, or in the mind as understanding. It can become compassion that chooses to help, while still keeping wise boundaries. It can be strengthened with practice, but it can also be strained by stress, fatigue, and fear, which is why it matters that we learn how it really works. If you enjoy these gentle journeys, I invite you to like, subscribe, or share a thought below. It helps others find their way here too, one sleepy soul at a time. But for now, just settle in. Let your shoulders soften and allow your eyes to grow heavy. And as your mind begins to gently unwind, join me as we explore this remarkable human capacity together. Let's begin. Empathy can synchronize two brains so their rhythms briefly begin to match. In close conversation, people often begin to align in subtle ways. Their attention rises and falls together. Their expressions echo. Even their timing can start to fit, like two songs finding the same beat. Researchers see hints of this in brain and body signals during storytelling, listening, and shared focus, where patterns can become more similar across two people than chance would suggest. It does not mean minds merge. It means the nervous system is built to tune in. This tuning helps you predict what someone might feel next and when to offer comfort or space. You can notice it in everyday life. A friend leans in as you lean in. Your voice slows as theirs slows. Connection becomes a living rhythm, moment by moment. Your body can mirror another's stress, even when you stay silent. You can sense tension without a single word being spoken. A tight jaw across the table can make your own shoulders creep upward. A shaky breath in a waiting room can nudge your heartbeat faster. This happens because human bodies constantly read cues like posture, facial tension, and pacing. Your nervous system prepares to respond before your thinking mind finishes the story. In families, this can look like a child becoming restless when a parent is anxious. In workplaces, it can feel like a team stiffening around a leader who is on edge. The upside is powerful. Calm can spread the same way. A slow, steady voice can help another person's breathing settle. Your body becomes part of the message, even in silence. Empathy can spread through a crowd, like a social chain reaction. Emotions rarely stay inside one person for long. In groups, feelings can ripple outward through faces, voices, and the tiny shifts in how people move. One person's relief can loosen the room. One person's fear can tighten it. This is rapid social learning. Your brain scans what others react to, then adjusts your own level of alarm or ease. It is why applause grows from a few hands to a roar. It is why a single laugh can turn into shared laughter. It is also why panic can spread, especially when information is unclear. Crowds can become more caring too. When someone steps forward to help, others often follow. Empathy can turn a group of strangers into a temporary community with one shared pulse. Some people feel others' pain more strongly, yet show fewer tears. Strong empathy does not always look like strong emotion on the outside. Some people feel a sharp internal echo of another person's distress, then immediately shift into problem solving and steady support. Instead of crying, they become focused, alert, and practical. That can be a protective pattern learned over time. It can also reflect differences in temperament, culture, and training. In emergency work, staying composed can help someone act quickly while still caring deeply. In friendships, it can be misunderstood. A calm face may be read as indifference, even when the person is quietly flooded with concern. One clue is attention. People who feel strongly often remember details, check in later, and notice small changes in mood. Empathy is not measured by tears. It is measured by attunement and response. Empathy changes what you see. It can sharpen attention to faces. When you care about what someone feels, your perception shifts. You stop skimming and start noticing. A tiny change in eyebrow tension matters. The corner of a mouth matters. The speed of a blink matters. Empathy turns the face into a map you want to read accurately. This can improve social understanding. It can also prevent mistakes, like assuming anger when someone is scared. In daily life, you can feel the difference between watching a stranger and watching someone you love. Your brain invests more effort. You gather more evidence. That extra attention can make you kinder because you catch the early signs of strain before they become a blow-up. It also explains why empathy can fade under stress. When you are rushed or threatened, attention narrows. Faces become background. Empathy begins with noticing. A single kind act can raise empathy in strangers minutes later. Kindness can set off a surprising cascade. When you witness someone help, your brain updates what it expects from the world. People start to seem less dangerous and more cooperative. That shift can make you more willing to imagine another person's inner life, even if you will never meet again. You see it in small scenes. Someone holds a door during a storm. The next person offers their seat. Another person smiles instead of scowling. The room warms and it happens fast. This is not just good manners. It is social learning that changes behavior in real time. Observing care can also reduce defensiveness, which makes empathic listening easier. It gives your nervous system permission to soften. One small action can move through a space like a spark. Not dramatic, but quietly powerful. A warm tone of voice can carry empathy even without words. People often remember the sound of a conversation more than the exact sentences. Tone tells the nervous system whether it is safe. A calm, steady voice can reduce alarm, even when the topic is difficult. A harsh tone can trigger defensiveness, even when the words are polite. This is why empathy can be heard through a door. You might not catch the content, yet you can sense care or contempt instantly. Tone carries patience, respect, and willingness to stay present. It also shapes how messages land. The phrase "I understand" can feel comforting or dismissive, depending on how it is spoken. In practice, empathic tone is slower, less sharp, and less crowded with urgency. It leaves room for the other person to breathe. You do not need perfect phrasing. If your voice communicates steadiness, the message becomes easier to trust. Empathy is trainable. Small daily habits can measurably grow it. People often treat empathy like a trait you either have or do not have. In reality, it behaves more like a skill. Skills strengthen with repetition, feedback, and intention. One habit is perspective taking. You pause and ask what pressures might be shaping the other person's day. Another is reflective listening, where you summarize what you heard before you respond. A third is expanding your circle of stories through conversations and books that reveal inner worlds unlike your own. Training works best when it is specific. Instead of aiming to be nicer, you practice one behavior, like asking a curious question before giving an opinion. Over time, this changes what your brain pays attention to and how quickly you recover after conflict. Empathy grows in the same place any skill grows. It grows in ordinary days, repeated until it becomes natural. Babies show early empathy before they can speak a single word. Very young infants react to the feelings of others in ways that hint at shared emotion. A baby may cry when another baby cries, even without understanding why. As months pass, many begin to show concern in simple forms. They may stare with wide attention. They may reach toward a distressed caregiver. They may bring a familiar object, like a toy, as if offering comfort. None of this requires language. It relies on perception, memory, and the basic social wiring that keeps humans close. It is also shaped by experience. When caregivers respond warmly, babies learn that feelings can be met with care rather than danger. That becomes a foundation for later empathy. The early signs are small and they are easy to miss. Yet they are there long before sentences. They are the beginning of a lifelong ability to tune in and to respond. Empathy is partly biology and partly the stories you learn. Some of your capacity to connect is rooted in the body. Temperament, stress sensitivity, and emotional reactivity all shape how easily you pick up on other people. Yet the mind is also a storyteller. The explanations you carry about others will guide what you feel. If you believe a person is selfish, you may miss their fear. If you believe they are struggling, you may notice their effort. Stories can come from family, culture, and media. They can widen empathy or narrow it. This is why meeting someone face to face often changes everything. A label turns into a person. A stereotype turns into details like a voice, a history, and a reason. Biology gives you the instrument. Stories teach you how to play it. When you change the stories you consume and repeat, you can change what you notice. Empathy becomes more likely and more accurate. Feeling understood and connected is linked to living longer. Human beings are built for connection, and the body seems to take that seriously. People with supportive relationships tend to handle stress better over time. Their daily burdens feel more manageable, and recovery comes faster after setbacks. This does not mean relationships prevent illness by magic. It means social support can change behavior and physiology in practical ways. Friends encourage sleep, movement, and medical care. Loved ones notice warning signs you might ignore. Feeling understood can reduce the sense of threat that keeps stress responses switched on. Even simple companionship can make hard moments less isolating, which matters because loneliness can act like a chronic strain on the body. Empathy is part of what makes bonds supportive. It helps people respond to needs instead of guessing. When you feel seen, you are more likely to take care of yourself. Connection can become a quiet form of protection. You can feel empathy without agreement. Compassion is not approval. It is possible to understand someone's feelings while still believing they are mistaken. That difference matters because it keeps empathy from turning into surrender. Think of a parent hearing a teenager's anger about a rule. The parent can recognize the frustration and the need for independence while still holding the boundary. In the same way, you can sit with a friend who made a poor choice and respond to the fear underneath without pretending the choice was wise. This kind of empathy is sturdy. It says, I see you and I am still here. It also makes hard conversations safer because the other person does not have to fight for their basic dignity. When people feel respected, they become more able to reflect. Empathy can be a bridge to accountability, not an escape from it. Emotional empathy and cognitive empathy can pull in different directions. Sometimes you feel what another person feels and your body reacts before your thoughts catch up. That is emotional empathy, and it can be intense. Other times, you understand what someone might be experiencing, yet you do not share the emotion yourself. That is cognitive empathy, and it can be cool and clear. These two forms can cooperate or they can conflict. A nurse might deeply understand a patient's fear while staying calm enough to act efficiently. A friend might feel another's sadness so strongly that they become overwhelmed and they miss what is actually needed. This is why empathy is not a single dial. It is more like two instruments playing at once. When they harmonize, care becomes both heartfelt and helpful. When they clash, you may need to steady one so the other can guide you. Empathy often begins with curiosity, not with certainty. The quickest way to lose connection is to decide you already know what someone means. Curiosity keeps the door open. It invites you to ask, what is this like for you, and what am I missing? In everyday life, this can be as simple as pausing before you react to a sharp comment. You might wonder if the person is scared, exhausted, or carrying bad news. Curiosity does not excuse harmful behavior. It prevents you from writing a full story too soon. It also makes people feel safer because they sense they are being explored rather than judged. Even small questions can change the mood. What part is hardest right now? What would help most in this moment? Curiosity turns empathy into a living process. It replaces assumptions with discovery, and discovery with understanding. Eye contact can increase empathic accuracy, but only in safe settings. Looking into someone's eyes can bring you closer to what they feel. It gives you access to tiny shifts in attention, tension, and relief. Yet eye contact is not a universal comfort. In some cultures, it can feel disrespectful. In many situations, it can feel like pressure. Safety decides whether it helps. With a trusted friend, a soft gaze can signal, I am here with you. With a stranger who feels threatened, the same gaze can feel intrusive. Even within one relationship, timing matters. During conflict, intense eye contact can escalate a nervous system that is already braced. In tender moments, it can steady the connection. A useful approach is to offer, not insist. You can look, then look away, and let the other person set the pace. Empathy is not staring. It is attuning. People read empathy from timing. Pauses matter as much as sentences. In conversation, the space between words can be a signal. A pause can say, I am listening and I am thinking with you. Rushing to respond can say, I am uncomfortable and I need this to end. Timing also shapes whether someone feels interrupted or held. When people are emotional, their thoughts often arrive in waves. If you fill every gap, they may lose the thread of what they were trying to share. A simple rhythm helps. Let them finish. Counterbeat, then respond to what you heard, not to what you feared they meant. Even in disagreement, pacing can lower the temperature. Slow timing makes room for nuance. A nuance is where empathy lives. Many people cannot recall the advice they received in a hard moment. They remember who gave them time to speak. Listening without fixing can feel more empathic than advice. When someone shares pain, the instinct to solve it can be strong. Advice is tempting because it promises control. Yet many moments are not asking for solutions. They are asking for witness. Listening without fixing means you do not grab the steering wheel of their story. You stay beside them as they describe it. You reflect what you hear. You name the feeling you think is present, and you check if you got it right. This can be surprisingly relieving because it reduces the sense of being managed. It also protects dignity. The speaker remains the expert on their own life. Later, if they want ideas, they can ask. In the meantime, presence is the gift. It tells them they do not have to perform strength to be accepted. Many people can carry their burden longer simply because someone stayed with them while they carried it. Empathy can fatigue. Too much exposure can dull your response. When you repeatedly absorb distress, your system may start to protect itself by turning down the volume. This can happen in caregiving, healthcare, or even constant news consumption. At first, you feel everything sharply. Over time, the same stories can feel distant, and that distance can bring guilt. Yet it is often a sign of overload, not a sign of coldness. The mind learns to numb so it can function. You might notice irritability, cynicism, or a strange emptiness when you should feel moved. The antidote is not forcing more feeling. It is restoring capacity. That can mean stepping back from relentless exposure, sharing the load with others, and returning to the parts of life that refill you. Empathy is like a muscle. Without recovery, it weakens. With recovery, it becomes reliable again. Compassion can buffer empathy fatigue. It adds steadiness to care. Feeling another person's pain can be like standing in rain without shelter. Compassion is the shelter. It does not require you to take on the full emotional weight. It asks you to care and to act when you can. This shift can protect helpers from drowning in the feelings they witness. A counselor may notice sorrow in a client and still remain anchored and hopeful. A caregiver may see suffering clearly and respond with practical support rather than spiraling distress. Compassion includes warmth, but it also includes boundaries. It says, I want your well-being and I will do what is possible, and I will also stay stable. That stability helps the person in pain, because panic does not heal panic. Compassion also makes care sustainable. It turns empathy from a flood into a steady stream, and steady streams can run for a long time. Stress narrows empathy. The brain prioritizes survival over connection. When stress rises, the mind starts scanning for danger. Attention tightens. Patience shrinks. This is not a moral failure. It is a survival setting. In that mode, other people's feelings can become hard to read and easier to misinterpret. A neutral expression might look hostile. A request might sound like a threat. You may also feel less able to imagine another viewpoint because your brain is busy protecting your own. This is why conflicts often worsen when everyone is tired, rushed, or under pressure. The good news is that small shifts can reopen empathy. Slowing your breathing can reduce the sense of urgency. Taking a short break can stop the escalation. Naming your stress out loud can also help because it creates shared reality instead of silent tension. Connection returns when the nervous system stops shouting danger. Sleep loss reduces empathy. The tired brain misses emotional cues. After a short night, the world can feel flatter and people can feel harder to read. You might notice it in yourself. A partner's worried face looks neutral. A co-worker's stressed tone sounds like annoyance. When the brain is under-rested, attention slips toward the most direct tasks, and the subtle signals of emotion become easier to overlook. The result can be small misunderstandings that snowball. A tired listener answers too quickly. A tired speaker feels dismissed. Even your own feelings can blur, which makes it harder to recognize what you are bringing into the room. The fascinating part is how quickly this can shift. One solid night can restore social sensitivity, as if the mind retunes to the fine details of voice and expression. Rest is not only recovery for muscles and memory, it is maintenance for connection. Hunger can lower patience, and patience is a doorway to empathy. Hunger is not just a stomach sensation. It is a whole body signal that nudges the brain toward urgency. When fuel runs low, attention tightens and irritations feel sharper. That is why small comments can sting more and why waiting your turn can feel like an insult. Patience, on the other hand, creates the pause where empathy can appear. In that pause, you can notice the other person's intent instead of only the impact. You can ask one more question instead of snapping back. It is striking how often conflict has a hidden ingredient. Someone needed food and nobody knew. The practical lesson is simple and oddly powerful. Many hard conversations go better when people have eaten. Shared meals also help for a reason. They align timing, soften vigilance, and give the brain a steady baseline. A full body makes room for a fuller perspective. Awe can widen empathy. It makes the self feel less central. Awe is what happens when something feels larger than your usual frame. A night sky crowded with stars, a vast cathedral, a scientific image of a galaxy swirling and ancient. In those moments, the mind often loosens its grip on self-importance, and worries shrink to a more workable size. That shift can make it easier to care about other people because you are not trapped in the tight tunnel of your own concerns. Awe also tends to increase curiosity, and curiosity is a bridge to understanding. You become more willing to consider lives that do not match yours. Even brief experiences can do this. A powerful documentary, a mountain view, a piece of music that makes time feel different. Awe does not solve problems directly. It changes the scale of attention. When attention widens, empathy has space to stretch. Gratitude can increase empathy. It tunes attention toward other people. Gratitude is easy to mistake for simple politeness, yet it can act like a lens. When you notice what you have received, you also notice the giver. Someone drove across town. Someone listened when you were difficult to love. Someone built the systems that made your day smoother. That attention shift can strengthen empathy because you start seeing effort, not just outcomes. It also changes how you interpret mistakes. When you feel grateful, you are more likely to assume good intentions and less likely to treat a slip as a personal attack. Gratitude can be practiced in small, concrete ways. Name one specific help you received today. Send a short message that describes what it meant. The effect is not only on mood, it reshapes social perception. You begin to look for the human hands behind ordinary comfort. And once you see those hands, caring about them becomes more natural. Shame can block empathy. It turns awareness inward and rigid. Shame is a spotlight that points inward and refuses to move. Instead of thinking, I did something wrong, it whispers, I am wrong. When that feeling takes hold, a person often becomes preoccupied with self-protection. They may withdraw, argue, or become strangely numb. In that state, empathy is difficult because attention is locked on survival in the social world. Even someone else's pain can feel like a threat because it might demand an apology or a change. Shame can also distort